We've been looking at the parables of the Lord Jesus. Today we're going to look at the parable of the talents. And that portion of Scripture is found in Matthew chapter 25. When we read the text here in a moment, I want you to look for answers to the following questions. Okay? Who is the master of the parable? Who are the servants of the parable? What is the return of the master a picture of? What do the talents represent? What happens when one is unfaithful with their talents? And what happens to those who are faithful with their talents? I want to begin by saying today's sermon is not about money. Although talent, in the scriptural sense, was a term of money or a unit of measurement, often of precious metals. And it's not about talent in the sense that we normally use the word, such as singing or playing an instrument or teaching. It's about something much more important. The parable teaches us several crucial principles about how to invest not our money, not our talent, but your life, the whole of you. Yes, your substance and your giftings are part of what makes up your life. Also, in this parable, we're going to look at three little words that's in our text that have the power to determine success or failure in any aspect of your life. These three words define the difference between good and faithful servant and wicked and lazy servant. I want you to see if you can pick out those three words. We'll get to that a little later. First, let's look at the parable and look at some of the principles Jesus teaches us in how to invest your what? Your life. Help me read the parable here. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his and entrusted his to them. To one, he gave talents of money, to another each according to his ability. Then he went on a journey. Help me. Verse 16. The man who had received the 5 talents went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 more. So also the one with 2 talents gained 2 more. But the one who had received the 1 talent went off, dug a hole, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received the 5 talents brought the other. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 talents. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been with I will put you in charge of. Come and share your master's. The man with 2 talents also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 talents. See, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been with I will put you in charge of. Come and share your master's. Then the man who had received the 1 talent came. Master, he said, I knew that you were a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid. I went out and hid your talent in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. His master replied, you who knew that I harvest where I had not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with so that when I returned, I would have received it back with. Take the from him, give it to the one who has. For everyone who has will be given, and he will have, and whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken from him. Throw the worthless servant. Throw the servant outside. Why is he worthless? Because he did nothing. He wasn't faithful. Throw the worthless servant outside into the darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. What does darkness and weeping and gnashing of teeth remind you of? That's the seriousness of the word here. Last week in the parable we looked at a denarius. Anybody remember what a denarius is worth? A day's wage. Anybody know what a talent is worth? A lot more, probably about 40 times more. A talent was a measure of money worth about 2 months' wages. So in today's economy, that would be several $1,000s. So we see here even that one talent is pretty significant. Would you agree? Yes. If you don't agree, let me know and I'll take a couple thousand from you. I'll take one talent, that's it. Okay? No. Two, that there is no such thing as a no-talent servant. Amen. There's none. Right. That's intentional. God has gifted each of us with a measure of ability. Amen. You are unique. He made you that way. So each servant in this passage is capable of doing something for his master. So the lesson here for us is that all of us, who? Point to yourself. All of us are capable of doing something for the master. The master, it says, was on a journey. The story doesn't tell us how long the journey. It just says that it was a long time. It was long enough for the servants to make good increase on their money. Thousands of dollars given them. Again, Jesus is not talking about money. He's talking about how we invest our lives. Here's what we need to observe in this passage. You'll be given opportunity according to your ability. Not everyone gets the same opportunity because not everyone has the same ability. Not everyone gets the same opportunity because not everyone is capable of handling the same responsibility. Now, last week I mentioned I played ball down here at Marlowe Elementary. It's a Roritan League, kind of a little league of sort. That was about 50 years ago. As a little new guy on the team, I didn't have much experience or skill. Thus, I didn't play so much. My talent as a new ball player left a little bit to be desired. So in my first year or so on the team, the coach never once put me up when bases were loaded and we were just a run or two behind. Well, maybe he would do it once in a while when the game we were way, way, way behind and I couldn't mess anything up. But if he was going to put in a pinch hitter in a crucial moment, he would put in the experienced guy, the guy that he thought was going to turn the game around. The youngest guys on the team typically heard, when you play better, you'll play more. Anybody else ever hear that? Or am I the only one? Okay. As I continued on the teams, as I remember it, my skills improved. The more they improved, the more I played. That made sense because it was a competitive sport. Ball is a competitive thing. And so the best players play the most. I worked at improving, and over the years, I became a better player. Now, fast forward 30, 40 years. My little girl, wants to play on a ball team. First, it was T-ball. They have a little thing there, and you put the ball on, and then they just swing. And then after that, she did C-ball. Anybody know what that was? That was coach. The coach would pitch all the balls. I'm sure there's reasons for that. If the kid pitched the ball, it would be a long, long game. But here's where I heard a different perspective. I don't know if the parents have changed or the kids have changed, but I remember people expressing the opinion that everyone on the team should get equal playing time. Any of your parents hear that? Any of your parents say that, okay? So whether the kid lives on the ball field and is an expert at the sport, or a kid who doesn't know the difference between a double play and a double header, they get the same playing time regardless of their commitment, regardless of their ability. Now you can get away with that in T-ball or in C-ball, but that's not how it is in the game called life. That's not how life works. Everybody doesn't get equal opportunities because everyone does not have equal abilities. We have some employers here in the house, right? Let me see your hands. Any employers? There you go. Do you hire the first person that comes your way? Don't give me that look like you just... No. Because not everybody has the ability to perform the job that they are in need of. Not everyone's able to handle certain levels of responsibility. Everyone doesn't share the same amount of commitment. There are some people who's church every time the door is open. There's some people, you see them from time to time. Sometimes that has to do with commitment. So it is, we get opportunities to match our abilities with our level of commitment. That's because there's a principle. God gives according to our abilities. The master didn't give the lazy servant 5 talents. That was intentional. He had a pretty good idea about him when he made the distribution. That was intentional. He didn't parallel with his abilities. Verse 15, to one he gave 5 talents of money, to another 2 talents, to another 1, according to, say it with me, according to his ability. Now that doesn't mean the master loved one over the other. He just recognized the difference in their ability. Now I'll tell you what many a person has a tendency to do. Instead of looking at the opportunity that God has given them, they look at the opportunity or the abilities that God has given others. Remember last week? The parable of the servants in the vineyard? You remember those who got called out in the early morning, the first call to do the task, and they were promised a day's wages? So they worked probably from 6 to 6, from sun up to sundown, and they were promised what? A day's wages. And so what did they get at the end of the day? A day's wages. Exactly what the master told them. So that's a good thing. When you work a full week, you get a full week's pay, right? But what did they do? Did they rejoice that they got their pay? No. They looked to those who had worked 2 hours and 1 hour, and they did the grumbling thing. Let's get that out of our system. So everybody grumble real quick. We don't like grumbling. As a boss, they do their job. I pay them, and they complain. Find another job. Anyway, that's what they did. They grumbled. Instead of rejoicing that they had enough money to take care of their family for the day, they focus on somebody who got something different. Rather than seizing the opportunities placed before us, we often fret over what we don't have or what we didn't get. Why didn't I have the same opportunities as he? Why don't I have an opportunity to get a better job? Why wasn't I born into a rich family? Why couldn't I attend an Ivy League school? Why couldn't I got a better job or better pay? It comes down to this. God gives us opportunities. Those opportunities generally come according to our abilities. So it's not your job to worry about what you don't have. It is your job to make the most of what you have or what the Master has given you. That's very clear in this passage of Scripture. When it comes to how you spend your life, you need to take an inventory of all you've been given and ask yourself, am I investing it or have I buried it? I guess that most of us, I thought about the first servants, and then I thought maybe I shouldn't. Which one of those servants are you? The 1 talent servant, the 2 talent servant, or the 5 talent servant? Everybody shut your eyes a minute, just for my benefit, okay? Raise your hand. How many of you feel like you're the 5 talent servant? How many feel like you're the 2 talent servant? How many feel like you're the 1 talent servant? That was eye-opening. Now that you all had your eyes closed and you opened your eyes at the end. Most fell in that 1 and 2 category. We don't think of ourselves, myself included, as the most gifted talent, or I do everything, because there are a few of those, do everything better than everybody else. The difference in the 1 talent and the 2 talent really doesn't seem too much difference. But the difference in what they ended up with was substantial. Because the one was faithful, the other was slothful. The one did something, the other did nothing. The more you trust God, the more God can trust you, I should say, the more he gives to you. So other question you should ask yourself, does God trust me? Can God trust me? Why should he trust me? You'll be given opportunities according to your ability. And if he has chosen to give others more than he's given you, it's never an excuse to waste what he has given you. Secondly, faithfulness leads to promotion. How many want to be promoted? There you go. Our young military people back there want to be promoted. Yes. What's the other alternative? Demoted? There's your choice. I guess 3 choices. Promoted, stay the same, or demoted. Okay? Ready? Let me hear your choice. Promoted. That's good, but let me warn you. There's responsibility that goes with promotion. Jesus said in verse 21, his master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I'm going to put you in charge of many things, and you can share in my happiness. So he said that to the man who had been given 5 talents. Then in verse 23, we see that he spoke the same exact words to the man who had been given 2 talents. Both were faithful with what they had, and both were promoted. They received reward, increase. And both were given more responsibility. The one who had 5 now has 10. That doesn't is an excuse for him to go and bury those 10. He had to vest those 10. So the sequel to the talents we'll have to wait till heaven for. But I'm pretty sure there's more than 10. And then it goes to 20. So there's increase. Even though their original resources were not of equal amount, their effort was equal, and their faithfulness was equal. The lesson here is that faithfulness pays off. In the kingdom, faithfulness always pays.
Yes, it does.
Always pays. You might not see it immediately. We might not even see it here, but generally we do see some of it here. But for sure, we see it there. There's not one thing that goes unnoticed. The cup of cold water given in the name of the Lord. It's noticed. So if you become weary, that's why we shouldn't become weary in our well-doing. If nobody else notices, it's okay. The all-seeing eye sees it every single time. So the lesson here is faithfulness. So whether you're faithful with a little or a lot, as long as you're faithful with what you have, your reward is assured. Whether you're faithful with a little or a lot, God is pleased. He was pleased with both, the 5 and the 2. Here's the principle that I want you to pick up. Being responsible always leads to more responsibility. You've probably heard it. If you want to get something done, ask the busiest person. Why? Why would you ask the busiest person? His plate's already full. because he's already proved himself responsible. People with tons of free time probably have it because they're not willing or not able to get things accomplished. You know, when it comes to hiring people, building contractors, landscapers, painting contractors, lawyers, doctors, accountants, goes on. The list goes on. The really good ones are generally the really busy ones. The not so good ones have little or nothing to do. As you seek to invest your life, I want you to realize that the more faithful you are, the more responsibility you'll be given, and the busier you'll become. We sometimes approach this the wrong way. We don't want a promotion. We don't want any more responsibility. Sometimes we want less. Anybody feel that they're too busy? Don't raise your hand. I was told of a youth leader one summer who said, I hope my youth group doesn't grow anymore. I've got all I can handle. The guy had been faithful with a small group, and the group grew. He'd done a great job. Now he's feeling a little overwhelmed. His pastor told him, he said, God is promoting you. He's taking you to a new level of ministry. It will become more challenging in the future, not less. You'll have to stretch yourself into new areas, move beyond what may have at first seemed like a very easy job. So when it comes to how we spend our lives, we need to know that God is looking for us to be faithful in the little things that he's called us to, so that he can reward us with even bigger things. Faithfulness leads to promotion. Promotion leads to a bigger job description, and being responsible leads to more responsibility. Third thing the passage teaches us is that accomplishing a little is better than accomplishing, help me, nothing. You know, I've heard of kids who won't play Little League because, you know, they're not the best, and if I can't play all the time, then I'm not going to play at all. There are those who won't go on a diet because they know they'll never stick with it. There are those who won't live a sober life because they don't think they can maintain sobriety. And most tragically, there are people who haven't accepted Christ because I don't think I can live the Christian life. Rather than fail, they'd rather not try at all. The quitter is always the loser. Always. That's exactly the mindset this servant had who received one talent. He thought, what if I take my money and I lose it? It's safer to do nothing. And that's what he did. Now imagine for a moment, Scripture doesn't tell us there, but I'll let you be creative. Imagine for a moment if this servant had done something different. The other two servants doubled their money, but what if this servant had just put his money into a low-risk, interest-bearing account? When the master returned, he could have said, Master, I know the other servants doubled their money, and I didn't do so well, but here's what I did do. I put your money in Dave Hart's bank, and the amount is increased by 20%. You gave me $5,000. Here's $6,000. What do you think the master would have said? I'm thinking he would have said, well done, good and faithful servant. The reason, I hold that reason why the master was so angry at the servant who buried his talent was because he did nothing. Nothing. He didn't even try. That's why the master said in verse 26, you wicked, lazy servant. You should have put my money on deposit with the banker so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. I'm thinking that even that much effort would have been enough to please the master. It for sure would have been better than doing nothing. Here's another principle that we need to pick up on. The greatest failure in life is in giving up. Proverbs chapter 24:16. For though a righteous man falls 7 times, he rises again. But the wicked are brought down by calamity. Here's the challenge. When you fall down, don't stay down.
Amen.
Get back up. Rise again. You stay down, it's over. It's over. Never, never, never give up. I read of a church service a while back where a man named Jim came forward during the invitation at the close of the service. He had a reputation for kind of a never-do-well kind of guy. He and his wife had married issues through their whole marriage. They separated many times, reconciled several times. He went from one job to another. He had been in and out of rehab. He had rededicated his life many, many times. And here he was again. The pastor said to him, Jim, we've been through this before. And if you can't get your life straightened out, maybe you should admit that you don't mean business and just give up. Ouch. Now, I may say to somebody, I don't think you mean business. I've done that a few times. I remember somebody came to me counseling, and he went on and on and on. He says, Pastor, you don't say anything. I said, I don't think you're ready to listen. In essence, you don't mean business. But I don't think I've ever said to anybody, why don't you just give up? It'd be hard for me to comprehend that I should do that being a minister of grace. Fortunately, someone after the service pulled Jim aside and said, Sir, you don't know me, but I want you to know that your preacher was wrong. I hope that you keep the commitment you made today and that your life gets straightened out. But if you fail, you've got to try again. If you fall down, you've got to get back up. If you want your marriage to work, if you want to get sober, if you want to become financially responsible, if you want to experience the fullness of God in your life, you've got to keep trying and keep at it as long as it takes. You have to get up as many times as is necessary. Don't you ever quit. Quitters never win. You know, someone here today might be facing that temptation. You say, Pastor, you don't know how many times I fail. I'd say the same thing to you. You don't know how many times I failed. And I'm glad that the Lord doesn't keep count. Amen. Once we've confessed our sins, we've fallen down, we've confessed it, we go back to abiding in Him, it makes all the difference. Maybe you're convinced that you'll never make it and you're thinking, I should cut my losses and bury my life in the sand and forget about it. That's the worst kind of failure in the world, because when you give up, you close the door on God Himself. When you give up and close the door on God, you're giving up on the miraculous that could take place. You may have squandered the opportunities that God has given you in the past, and there may be much more in your life that is buried in the sand somewhere. If that's the case, get a shovel and get to work. Unbury what is buried and put it to work before the Master returns. Amen. Do what you can with what you have, because accomplishing a little is always better than accomplishing nothing or doing nothing. The only bigger failure in life that I can think of is giving up. That's why the servant was called wicked and lazy. Don't give up. Next, the more you apply yourself, the better you get. Verse 28, take the talent from him, give it to the one who has 10 talents. That's a good day. For everyone who has been given, for everyone who has will be given more, and he will have an abundance. Whoever doesn't have even what he has will be taken from him. We all have been given certain opportunities, certain skills, certain resources to work with. The more you use them, the more you get in return. Here's the principle to remember when it comes to investing your life. Use it or lose it. If God has given you an opportunity and you don't use it, you will lose it. If God has given you a skill and you don't use it, you'll lose it. And on the other hand, if you use it, you'll experience growth and reward. I want to show a video here in a second. Here's a pianist who committed himself to practice the piano in a year and a half. I want you to watch the improvement of this gentleman who has committed himself to practice. In 1.5 years of practicing, he played at Carnegie Hall. I was fortunate enough to have a clip of his early attempts at the piano. Let's see how far he came.
Visiting New York City for the first time is an exciting experience for many. But for William Zhang, he has an extra reason to smile. In a few days, he would be playing Carnegie Hall. The 6-year-old from Atlanta, Georgia, won first prize in the American Protege International Piano and String Competition. What got him there was this amateur video taken by his father. He's playing Mozart, one of his favorite composers, along with Bach and Chopin.
Music brings me happiness, and I want to bring the audience happiness.
Zhang's parents say William always responded to music.
Whenever there's music in the house, he jumps and he moves. So we just feel he loves music.
When he was 2, they bought him a $20,000 piano. Their friends thought they were crazy, but they had a hunch he would take a liking to the instrument. This video was taken when William was 1. Zhang's parents wanted him to start lessons at 2 or 3, but everyone told them he was too young.
We feel very frustrated. He can punch the little key and make some beautiful sound. Why don't you teach him? But no, nobody wants to teach him.
So his parents, who didn't play instruments themselves, taught him to play baby songs. Then at 4.5, he began piano lessons. Today, he practices up to 3 hours a day.
It's like the best team. Parents, student, and the teacher. We work together.
All that work paid off. In January, the family found out William had won the competition. The news came in an email.
I didn't want to tell them because I want to make sure, did I look at it wrong? So I blow it up on my desktop computer screen and check first place. And then I tell them we were just so thrilled, so excited.
Then came the big day when Zhang performed at Carnegie Hall. He played his favorite, Mozart. One of the youngest to play, his performance was flawless.
While in New York, the family has met with Juilliard and other prestigious institutions to get advice on how best to cultivate William's talent.
William isn't sure where he's headed, but says piano is definitely in his future.
Maybe I want to be an artist, maybe a pianist, or maybe composer or piano teacher.
Whatever he decides, William is already firmly on the path to a bright future. Karina Huber, CGTN, New York.
I don't like that clip. No, I really love that clip. I watched it over and over. Why can't I play like that? Huh? I didn't practice. He was 4.5 years old when he started lessons, and at 6 he's playing Carnegie Hall. I figured it out. You know why I don't play that way? My parents didn't buy me a $20,000 piano. Not my fault. No. Likely his commitment and his ability goes beyond mine. Does anybody here have a doubt that that little boy could be, he said he wants to be a pianist, he's already a pianist, could be a piano teacher or a composer or what was the other thing? An artist. Anybody have any doubt about that? I don't. Whatever he sets his mind to, he probably could do. Within reason. I thought, now I could just see a parent coming to me, Pastor Jim, my 6-year-old boy would like to be on the worship team. What do you think? Now before the clip I said, that's admirable and we can work toward that and pray toward that. Now if this young man's mother came to me, I'd said it's yours. You know, it's a matter of what we set our mind our heart and how we use our giftings and abilities. Look at the things you want to increase in your life. Invest in them. You want a great marriage? Invest in your marriage. Use it or lose it. You want to have a great relationship with your children? Invest in your family. Make your family priority. Use it or lose it. You want to have a dynamic relationship with the Lord and a useful ministry? In the kingdom, invest your life in building His kingdom. You use it or you lose it. I've talked about 4 foundational principles that are crucial in building a life worth living. Let me remind you again. We're given opportunities according to the abilities we've been given. Everybody has giftings and resources and abilities. Everyone. Faithfulness in the kingdom always leads to promotion. You'll get your reward. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe some down the road, but the all-seeing eye sees it all. Doesn't go unnoticed. The greatest failure in life is in giving up. Don't you ever quit. The more you apply yourself, the better you get. Angelo sat there on the front row of the first service, and I looked at him and I said, Angelo, I remember the first time you played drums at Marlowe. It was a Sunday night. You stunk. He didn't flinch. He knew I didn't mean that. He did pretty good for the first time, but it wasn't nearly what it sounded like this morning. Why is that? He kept at it. Practice. Practice. I happened to, we got this drum set from Angelo's teacher over in Hagerstown, and so I went to pick it up this, I don't know how, it's been a number of months, and so I sat through one of his lessons, and I watched his teacher challenging him. Not that he was quite perfect. There were things that the teacher would challenge, but he keeps at it. This week, I guess I'll go back for another lesson. In our walk with the Lord, it would behoove you regularly to take the word out, read it, and say, Lord, what are you saying to me? How does my life need to change? What do I need to put off? What do I need to be doing? What do you have for me? You know, read until the Lord encourages you to do something, and then do it. And I'll tell you when to do it in a moment. I'm going to close by taking a couple minutes to look at 3 little words that will make the difference in your life. We've talked about several principles, and this adds to that. If you don't know the 3 little words, or don't put these 3 little words into practice, your life may never go anyplace. I want you to look for the 3 little words. Verse 16, chapter 25. The man who had received the 5 talents went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 more. Been able to pick out the 3 words? Went at once. Sometimes we don't get things done because we practice something else. The importance of practice. We don't practice the went at once. We practice procrastination. Why do today what I can do tomorrow? Don't put off to tomorrow what you can do today. Okay? He went at once. Whatever it is that you need to accomplish, there's something that you could do today to get started. We can't change the past. But we can start today and make a new end. Okay? We need to start. You better start before the master returns. You know, I was reading a number of parables, and one of the parables, in fact, 3 of them, even in this chapter, kind of have the theme of watch. And sometimes we think watch for the signs. No, really, in reading that, I think the watch there is we need to watch our own life and to make sure that our focus never changes. Whether we see the circumstances or the signs of his coming, he's coming. He's coming. You know, these are the perilous times. I believe we're living in them that is spoken of before his return. For sure, we're a week closer than we were yesterday, and we're a day closer than we were yesterday. His coming is at hand. This says they went at once. That means God started immediately. He didn't put off tomorrow what he could do today. He was given a job to do. He didn't procrastinate. He what? Went at once. Whatever it is that you need to accomplish, there's something you could do today. Again, we have to start before the master returns. You say, Pastor, it's a little late now. You know how old I am. Pastor Norm gave us an illustration the Wednesday about Colonel Sanders. Anybody have Kentucky Fried Chicken? Everybody know what that is? KFC now? Sanders had a restaurant in Kentucky, North Corbin restaurant, that he figured it'll be successful through the end of my days, but in his 60s, the Interstate 75, they put a new interstate by his restaurant, and it bypassed his restaurant. Consequently, what was his steady stream of customers, all of a sudden there was a bypass, so things dried up. Left with his savings, he sold the restaurant, left with his savings and $105 a month Social Security. He moved to the franchise concept, and at 65, Harlan David Sanders franchised Kentucky Fried Chicken. Notice KFC today. 65. You know what 65 looks like?
Yep. You could do it.
Some look worse. Lots look better. Okay? It almost didn't happen. It almost didn't happen. You kept at it. It didn't work. Or it was working and stopped working because of a bypass. Whatever you need to do, put some energy toward it today. You need to take charge of your health, you can start today. I probably won't hear any amens, so order a salad at lunch. Take a walk this afternoon. Take a turn toward healthier eating. Commit yourself today to, is that procrastination? That's honoring the Lord's day. Commit yourself today to go to the gym tomorrow. How's that? You need to make some changes in your professional life. Rework your resume. Need some changes in your personal life. You know, there are help books. You can always spend time in the Word. Do it today. You need to reconcile with someone in your life. Make that first phone call today. Write that first letter today. You need to get out of debt. Put $10 or 10% aside toward your debt retirement. That'll be at least $10 more than you had set aside for that purpose yesterday. Might take years to finish the job, but you can start today. Somebody was here this morning who started school there as an adult. They got 3.5 more semesters, but you stick at it. Stick to it. You know, there'll be some who need to get things straightened out with the Lord. Not a better moment than right now. Take that step now. Musicians are going to come and we're going to sing a closing prayer. It says, we are an offering. The servant who was given 5 talents was called what? Good and faithful, because he what? Went at once to put his talents at work. I'm challenging you to do the same. Would you stand with me? I trust you know what you need to do today. Make this your prayer. Give yourself to the Lord. I don't know if, some people are more prone to lift their hands. This song says, we are an offering. I lift my hands up to you. I encourage you to. You can lay your hands like this, and I won't tell anybody you lifted your hands. Or you can raise to the Lord. Would you give the Lord an offering? We're not talking about money. We're talking about a particular gift. We're talking about your life. Your life. Your life. You've got one life. Give it to the Lord.